Welcome. In this video, I'm going to continue on the CSS Designer. In recap, it looks very, very intimidating, but in reality, once you get used to its organization, it's not as difficult as it appears. Just remember, you always have the all and a current right up there when you're having a problem finding something, or you just want to have the CSS Designer create the actual rule for you. For instance, this is a heading over here. It's a heading 1. And if I click on current and then new selector, it's going to create the actual heading for me, the rule. Now notice it added a sect ID H1 because it just goes back over here and all the way to the left to it where it feels it needs to go. If you just wanted to have it have H1, you can hit the up arrow there. So I'm not going to create that rule, but that's how easy it is. So if we click on all, notice we have a body, we have a my div, we have a my div section, and we have a section stuff P. Notice the section stuff P begins with a period. That means it's a class and it has to be applied. The body will be applied to every element that's underneath the body. An easy way to see what's underneath a tag is to use the DOM. So to find it, just click on Window and DOM. And that stands for Document Object Model. So if you take a look at the DOM, which is actually this one, you can see we have, starting from the top, HTML. Everything is within the HTML. That's the very fast first tag. Then we have the head. Remember, the head does not show on a web page, but you can see we have meta, title, and link. Those things we'll talk about as we need to in the project guidelines. Now we have the body, so let's click on body and close everything up. Everything that shows is within the body. We have a header, we have a nav, and inside the nav is a paragraph, an unordered list, and another paragraph. If you click on this, we have list elements. Now we have a div, that's my div, and we can see underneath that, and I'll just drag this down a bit. You can see under that you have a paragraph, a section. A section has 2 paragraphs. Then we have another section that is got an ID, a section ID. Notice it tells you what the ID is. And then it also tells you that it has a class applied to it. You know it's a class applied to it because it's got a period in here. Underneath it, it's got a P, an H1, and a P. If you wanted to format this P very easily, you could by creating a section P, or you could do a section ID P. You can get as specific as you want. And then footer has 2 P's. If we go into code, you can see here's the layout right over here. So we have header, which is here. We have nav, which has a P, an unordered list, a bunch of list items, and a UL. We have another P, and then that ends the nav. So that's a very easy way to do it. If you want to move things around, you can move them very easily by dragging this as opposed to going to code view and dragging them. All right, so let's go back into live. And right over here, we have a border around it. We use that to demonstrate the fact that we had margin and padding. So if you want to know what's affecting everything in the body, click on the body, hold your Alt key down, and click again. And then you can see everything that we have over here. So the body is got color. It's got, notice it's got 000, which means it's black. Color stands for the color of the text. We have margin top 50, margin left 50. That's why you see that white space on top. We have padding top 30. We have the border, which is red. The padding top is why you see some space between the actual border and the header. And then we have padding left. That's why you see space over here. And let's see if there's anything else. And text decoration, none. That means we don't want to have any kind of underlines. However, notice that we have these links here have text decoration of underlines. That's because there's a rule that's automatic on any kind of link that's going to override that. So you need to fix that. It's really very easy to do. So let's click on these links here. And this link here is, let's click on this A here. And then we'll click and we'll hold down the Alt key. And notice that it has everything here. Sometimes you have to do this in design mode to get it. So we'll click here and we'll hold the Alt key down. And if you're not seeing anything, now I've done it 2 different ways. I said sometimes you have to go in design. That's because nothing is overriding it. There's nothing there. So let's go down here and see if there's anything overriding. We have div over here. So let's hold the Alt key down. Now notice we have something and we have a color. Whatever color this is some kind of red, I'm guessing, because the div's over here. And let's see if we have something in here. Now we have my div section, and notice we have a different color over here. So what this is doing, anything that's within my div is going to, and it's a section within my div, is going to be whatever this rule is in here. Okay. All right, so at this point in time, I'm going to go into the rest of these things over here. Notice we did margin and we did text. So what I'm going to do here is just do a little bit back on text over here. And this is an anchor and a list item. So we can do it very easily. We can click on this list item here. But normally you want to use the anchors in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on text. And we're going to get rid of the text decoration in here. If it doesn't work, that means something else is overriding it. So what we'll do is let's go back to the unordered list here. Now remember, always use this. So we're going to click on here, text decoration, and boom. So these are examples of what you need to do when something is not overriding. We're going to go back to that, and I'll show you how to fix that. So I'm showing you things that you have to look for when you try to format something and it doesn't work. Now notice this unordered list over here has bullets in here. And there is a way to get rid of the bullets. Very easy. It's just this tape in here, and you'll see all kinds of different things in here. So let's go back. When we start doing our lesson on menu system, that's when I'm going to go over all of these things here. So first thing we're going to do here, and I'll give you a hint, here is your list style in here. So we're going to click on list style type and list style image if you wanted to have a specific image, list style type if we choose none, and boom. All right, now we're not using the right rule, so don't worry about that at that point in time in here. So, all right, so what I'm doing here is showing you the problems. Now I'm going to go back and show you how to actually fix it. All we did was click. The reason why it didn't work was because we didn't have a rule for it to be applied to. All we did was click and think it's going to work. Ah, gotcha. All right, so let's go back to unordered list. Or we can actually go on this over here. But what I'm going to do here is let's start with the unordered list and list item in here. Now, the problem is if we create a rule for the list item, then every single list item that we have, an unordered list, is not going to be applied properly. In other words, it's going to affect every single thing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to click on the unordered list here. and we're going to create a rule. Again, I've shown you 3 different things that you clicked on and nothing worked. And again, the reason why is you have to create the rule first. So let's create the rule. I'm going to click on current, and I'm going to click on this and see. So now we have body nav UL, and let's get rid of that. So I use the up arrow and get rid of it. Now we're going to create a UL, and then we're going to change the actual list style to none. And notice what happened in there. That's what took care of it. Also, let's go back to text, and let's do the text decoration and click on none and see if that fixes it. It didn't. And the reason being is because there's a hyperlink, which is an A tag, which is overriding it. So what we would need to do is click on the A tag here, create a new rule, and let's just make sure that it's within the nav so we don't affect everyone. So now we have nav, UL, that's list. Now we could also get rid of the UL and the LI. That just means that it is a nav, inside is a UL, inside is an L. So it's an A that's inside a list item, that's inside an unordered list side. So we could actually get rid of the UL and the LI if we wanted to. It's really basically the same thing. So we're going to leave this here. And now let's try text decoration and see what happens. There, it disappeared. And by having all this, you're sure of exactly what's going to happen. So that takes care of that. We're going to go now into some of the other things. Okay, border is really pretty easy. Border, you either have a border or you don't have a border. You can have a border on the top, left, right, or bottom. However, there are 3 things you have to set with a border. You have to set the width, you have to set the style, and you have to set the color. So if I wanted to set the border on this div over here, why don't we just do a div my div? I'm going to click on current, click on plus. Oops, don't want sources, want selectors, sorry. And we have my div. Now we already have one in here. So we can create another rule, or we can just go back to the last rule. And let's just do this over here and just edit it. So what we want to do here is we want to create the rule. We're going to put a border here. If I click on this, it puts it on all sides. If this just does the top, bottom, left, or that, we'll talk about shorthand at another time. The book does explain how to do it as a quick and easy way to do stuff. So let's create a width, and let's just make it 5 pixels. And I'm going to choose 5, and boom. Now, the reason why we have it is because we have a rule that's already in place for border. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to change the style. Let's just make it dotted. And notice that is dotted. And then let's make the color red. And I'll go into live, and let's see what we have. Boom. So that takes care of that. Now, the reason why you're having that is because you already had rules that had borders that was going to settle down in here. So that takes care as far as the size and the actual type. So that takes care of border. It's really pretty easy. However, if you want to get pretty neat, let's go back to border here. There's a border radius. You're going to use that, and primarily you use that for pictures, and you can make things round. It appears to be round. It's actually not. So we'll do that at another video. Okay, don't really need to worry about border collapse or border spacing. And so just remember, when you're setting a border, you want to make sure that you're using the width, the style, and the dotted. If you didn't have a style defined, boom, gone. If we want it solid, you want it double. So you can do some kind of neat things with the double. Use your own judgment on that. Border radius, we just talked about. So you need to set top, left, right, and bottom if you want it to be completely circle or completely oval, or you can just do it on the top and the right. That's up to you. Usually on images is where you're actually going to do that. So let's try it with an image in here. We'll insert an image. And I'm going to do it in, I like working in design for inserting things. Let's see if we have an image that we can find. Okay, it's not liking that. Okay, image is grayed out for some reason. I'm not really sure why, so I'm going to take this here. And the reason is because there's no images. So you can't see this, so let me grab this over here. So that's something that's good for you to understand. If you go to insert and your image is grayed out, that means you have absolutely no images that you can browse to. So what I'm going to do is copy an image, and we're going to put it in. So let me click, and let's see if we can find an image somewhere that we like. All right, so let's do bubble tea. And I'm going to copy it. And we'll paste it. Okay, now remember, the Explorer, Windows Explorer, is different than here. You can't actually browse and mix the two. You just can't drag it over. So let's try inserting that image one more time. And it's still grayed out because they're probably in the wrong images in here. There it is. Okay. So you can't see it, so let's take it and drag it. And that's huge. Okay? Not a problem. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make it smaller. And we have in here, the width is here. Let's just change it to 250 pixels. And there. So, okay, so that takes care of that. Now, notice all I did was change the width over here. This does not physically change the image. All it does is say display it that way. If we want it to actually change, we click on this here. And that will in there. Okay. So we're going to take this now. We're going to find border. We're going to choose a section image here. And let's just create a new class that calls we'll call it rounded image. So we're going to create a selector. We're going to physically type a period, and we'll just call it rounded image. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set the and I'll show you what it does now. And nothing. And the reason why it does nothing, because we haven't applied to class. So we have a left and a right on the top left and top right. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to click on this, and I'm actually going to apply the class. When you click on the class here, it gives you a list of all of your classes. I'm clicking here. Boom. Now, the reason why it doesn't show is because we're in design. So let's go into live, and boom, does absolutely nothing. So we'll have to go back and find that. Welcome to CSS. So what we're going to do here is round P, and that's very simple. Here you go. It's because we applied the class to the paragraph tag. So what we need to do is fix that. So let's go to the paragraph class, and you can see how easy it is to find your issues and correct them. Now, sometimes, like I said, I make mistakes on purpose, and sometimes I don't. And you will make mistakes, but by doing this, it allows you to see what's going on. Okay, so now we have this. You can see it's rounded, so let's complete it. So click over here. We'll go down, and we're going to choose 25. And 25. So let's go. So that looks nice. So that's pretty neat. All right, so we have the margins. Now we have background image. Background image is something that you did in the museum. Be very careful with background images. What I use them for strictly is a background image of a body that's usually a color, and then I may have another image in there, and then the actual site itself doesn't have a background image. It's just that if you have a wide screen, you want to have something that is appealing. You don't want to have this ugly white all over the place. So if we were to take a background image, we can choose the background image the same way you did the museum. Just browse. We'll just do this over here, and let's see what that does. Okay. So it looks kind of ugly, and the reason why is because we have no thing in to apply to it. So again, I caution you. This is, I think, the 4th time I've done this, so hopefully now, make sure you understand that you have to create a class to apply to something, or you have to create the property and a selector before it will physically work. So now we have this over here. We can get rid of it just by trashing it. So let's put in, let's just do the nav up top here. So here's our nav. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a class for the nav. And we're just going to put image background. And this is not a good way to do this, but I'm going to explain why I'm doing it so you can see. All right, and what we'll do here is we'll take the nav, and if my mouse will cooperate, I'm going to apply the class, and we have image background. Okay, nothing happened. You go, why? Very simple. We haven't applied anything to it. So what we need to do is go to the background, and we need to put an image. Let's select an image and see what happens. Now we have it. So here, it's going all the way across because it's repeating as far as it ought to go. So if we wanted it that way, we can do that. If we only wanted one way, we can just background repeat, background repeat. So that only applies it only one time. This is no repeat. This is repeat all. This is repeat X, which is up and down. And this is horizontally, so let's choose that. So that means don't repeat it in there. So these are very things. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to actually change the class, because why do we really need the class if we're only going to affect the nav? So I'm going to actually just rename this, and there's something that you need to be careful with. Let's just make this nav. Now notice it's still there, but it's got nothing to do with the actual class. It has it because its nav is in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this class here. And notice that it's still there. So let me go into the actual My Styles code, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, we have the body. These are all the things that affect the body in here. Then we have an unordered list, and we change the list style to none. Then we have an anchor or a ref, which is a hyperlink, and we change the text decoration to make the underline disappear. We have color in here. We set the border in here. My div. Okay, now we have a nav background. That means anything that has a tag of nav will have this background image, and we're only repeating Y. We really, in most cases, you only want repeat none. So you could actually change things. We could have, if we wanted to, physically change it right in here and just do that stuff over here. So I'm going to save everything here. We'll go back into live, and we have all these things. So let's see if there's anything else we really need to go over. So our background, we don't really need to worry too much about the background attachments, box shadows. In here, we just don't have enough time in here. And of course, the background color. In your project, every single background needs to be white. No exception, with the exception of the body. When you get your project template, it will already have an image in there and a lot of the CSS code for you. I'm going to devote one night, which is actually going to be next week, and maybe I'll start on it and have an extra session this week if anybody would like to have one. What I'm going to do is go over the template and make sure that you fully understand how all it works, and then that will be the basis for what you can do. Then all you have to do is create the pages, and more than half of the formatting is going to be there for you. So that's all for this video. Please let me know if you have any questions. Remember, a lot of the things I've done is to show you how to fix things that are not working. So just go back. You've seen some of the things, how easy it is to make a mistake. So if you make a mistake, do the things that I did in here to go back and fix them. So as always, if you have any questions, please let me know. Have a great day.